Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe with me, Fred Indimuli. It's exactly 8 minutes past 8. And we now want to switch gears and talk about matters myopia. Global Myopia Awareness Week is an annual initiative to raise awareness about myopia or nearsightedness, particularly in children, and promote proactive eye care. This year's theme is Screens Down, Eyes Up, emphasizing the need to reduce screen time and encourage more outdoor activities for children to help prevent and manage myopia. This morning we're joined by two experts who are going to help us understand this, beginning with Irene Gitonga, who's a senior optometrist at Baus Optical. Karibu sana to studio.
Asante.
And Benjamin Mutesia, who's the lead optometrist at Baus Optical as well. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much.
So many people may wonder, myopia can be used in a very negative way when people even just speaking and you're told you're very myopic. and many people may wonder, okay, what exactly is myopia? Let's start from there. Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you very much, friend. And thank you for having us from Baus Optical. We're here to celebrate this particular awareness week. It's a global agenda that we are pushing as eye care professionals. Mm-hmm. So in a nutshell, myopia, to be defined, would be someone who is not able to see very well at a distance. That's why you hear in the context of conversations, people are told, you're so myopic. That is when you're trying to, maybe you don't want to take the point of view of others, mm-hmm. or you are just stuck with your own. But in the context of our healthcare, we basically mean that someone who has the ability to see very well at near, but has not the ability to see very clearly at distance.
All right. And for it to have gotten to a level where we now even have a global awareness week for myopia, it means that there's generally a global concern about this issue. Why is it considered such a big concern globally? Irene?
This is because you find that the life that we're living right now, it's mostly what's causing it to happen. Let's talk about screens now. Children mostly watching cartoons and mostly on their phones, leading it to myopia. The lifestyle that we're living now, mostly we are always doing near work. When it comes to short-sightedness, which is also called myopia, our eyes generally are meant to look at a distance. When you're looking at a distance, you're comfortable, your eyes are relaxed, your muscles are relaxed. But now you find that at the time that you are mostly doing the near work, which is the life that you're living today, mostly using computers, our kids are always indoors, you don't allow them to go outside. You find that you are allowing this child to concentrate on near things. By the time this child is growing up, by the time you are out to expose yourself, your eyes are already used to the small environment, they're already used to the short distances, such that the eyes are not elongated enough for you to be able to see things at a distance. Mm-hmm. So this really brings about the short-sightedness, which is now a big problem, because around 50% in the near future will be now wearing glasses because of this. So we should normalize going out, we should normalize staying outdoors, we should normalize staying out of these gadgets and giving ourselves the breaks that we need.
Uh-huh. And it's interesting that you talk about the technology and the link between technology and myopia. Do you mean, therefore, that this is a new age problem, that before technology or before television sets and all these things, we did not have cases of myopia, Benjamin?
Could be so. Fred. Why? Because we're living in a very different world from where our ancestors and our parents left. If you trace back to the 19th century or the 20th century, you find that the kind of occupations, the kind of environments that the human race was exposed to, mm-hmm. is very different from what we have today. You realize that in the past, we had hunters and gatherers, we had pastoralists. And these are activities that require you to have exposed your eyes to distant vision and focus at a distance. But nowadays we have office work. Look at you. You are there with just you, the laptop and the producer and everything in a closed room. Mm-hmm. But now, compare yourself to your ancestors who are probably farmers or pastoralists like that. However, this concern has come also because of the technology. Technology has got its advantages but also disadvantages. Because the more we get the new advancement in technology, the more people became sedated. By sedated, I mean people choose lifestyles that are not so much active, and therefore they expose themselves to a very enclosed environment, therefore leading to myopia. And maybe to add on what she said, as at now where we are talking about global myopia awareness is specifically because it has its own complications. It is one of the leading causes of what we call avoidable blindness in cases where someone has myopia from a tender age, and probably they were not, they didn't get a chance to be corrected. You realize that this myopia will progress, it will get worse, and then this particular person might lose their eyesight and therefore leading to blindness. That's why.
And we'll get to that point of what comes after what later on. But let's talk about prevention now, because we must accept that this is a life we live. We cannot live away from technology. We deal with our phones, we deal with our laptops, television sets, we do our meetings online, virtually. And then how do we survive without this? What are the ways we can prevent myopia, even with this kind of technology that we have to live with? Erin?
One way is, there's a rule we call 20-20-20 rule. In this 20-20-20 rule, it has 3 20s, okay? For every 20 minutes, after every 20 minutes, you've been on your laptop for like an hour. So after every 20 minutes, take 20 seconds of your time, look 20 feet away. Let your eyes relax, let the muscles relax, give them a break, and then continue to what you're doing. With this exercise, it helps you with the muscle relaxation and the exercises. That is one. Another thing that we can be able to do is for our small kids, let's normalize taking the kids for checkups when they're still young. It's good if they start having these checkups early when they're still young. It makes it easy for us for the myopia to be treated earlier, because there's something we call progressive myopia. The more they are aging, the more the myopia is going to be developing. So if you want to prevent this myopia from getting to high powers, there's something we call high myopia now. Those people who are wearing suppose you've seen someone wearing very thick lenses. To be able to prevent all that, we can start it from young kids. And for young kids, we start looking at them from home. Start looking at your child, the way she's watching, he or she is watching the screen. If your kid is mostly going near the screen whenever they want to watch, you can be checking from their teachers in school how they are doing their homeworks, how they are copying on the blackboard. The teacher will tell you, this child, whenever we are doing some assignments, they either copy wrong things from their board or they want to sit near the blackboard so that they can be able to see what's written. Take your kids for checkup. If they notice that they have this problem early, it enables us to prevent it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take you back to the title. You are an optometrist. What exactly does an optometrist do?
An optometrist is a primary healthcare professional. We are trained to specifically take care of eye care. From day one when you enter into higher institution of learning, that is college or Kenya Medical Training College, you study about the eye. Okay. You study about the eye for 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. Like for me, I went for 5 years for my bachelor's in the University of Masinde Muliro University in Kakamega. So these professionals, the optometrist, is trained specifically to manage eye conditions, to identify them, to diagnose them, and to also prevent them. And that is why we are here, to help TV47 do what they do best in disseminating information to the world about this particular menace of myopia.
Then I guess you're the right person to ask this, because many people may not understand the science behind myopia. Like, yes, we do understand it has something to do with the eye muscle.
Yes.
What is the mechanics of it, that this is what happens leading to myopia?
Well, you know, Fred, when you're looking at me, it's not the eye that is seeing, it is the brain. The brain is seeing using the visual cortex, the back part of the brain, which processes this information. You probably think that you have one big eye on top of your face. Why? Because if you close one eye, you could still see me. If you close the other, you could still see me. It is the aspect of binocularity of vision. How it comes is when the eye looks at an object, and then the object is reflected by light that we are able to see, then it goes up to into the eye, it gets through the cornea. Through the cornea, it's refracted up to the lens. From the lens, it's refracted and projected on the screen of the eye, which we call the retina. Now from the retina, this particular image is converted into signals. like impulses that the axons or the neurons of the brain can be able to transduce and transmit up to the visual cortex, where now the information is integrated and you are able to interpret. That is to mean if you have good eyes and probably you still have a problem with the development of the visual cortex, that is the part of the brain that interprets vision, you will still have problems. And that's why my colleague said it is very important to look at the refractive conditions at a tender age, probably from 2 years to 9 years, because we call it the critical period. This is the period where the brain or the visual cortex is still developing. And therefore, if we can be able to diagnose that a child has a defect at this particular age, there are particular ways that we can intervene to make sure that the cortex develops properly.
If I may get you right, do you mean to say that there are children who are born with this condition already at birth, they already have myopia?
Okay, let me explain on that. I'll use some layman's language on what he has explained. Let me use the simplest language. So an eyeball, at the back of the eyeball, we have something called the retina. The retina is like the screen. When I look at you, your image is formed at my retina. That is the back of my eye. And now the retina, it takes that image to the brain, and then the brain brings now the image that I'm now seeing. That's the layman's language. And then from the front part of my eye to the retina, we have something called the axial length, the length now. So there is a normal length, which is around 22, 23 millimeters. So for someone who is short-sighted or myopic, this person, you find that the length is longer than normal. So you find that the images are not formed at the screen. The images are formed in between the eye. By the time the image is already reaching the screen, it's already blurry.
It gets beyond the screen?
No, it's in front. For myopia, the image is formed in front of the screen, which is not the retina. So by the time the image is already reaching to the retina, it's already blurry. So what I'm seeing is a blurry image. I'm giving the brain a blurry image, it gives me back a blurry image. So that's what we call short-sightedness. Most of the time, this short-sightedness comes with also it's hereditary. If any of the parents, either of them wears glasses, high chances are there that the kids, either one or two, will be wearing. And if both parents are wearing glasses, high chances are there that all the kids will be wearing glasses. This is because it's hereditary. And for the fact that now the more the child is growing, the more the eyeball is growing. So meaning the more the axial length is growing. So the earlier we discover this, the earlier we'll be able to reduce by giving you the lens, especially for kids. The lens at BOS we have, it's called CMA. This lenses it reduces the elongation of that axial length now. You find that this kid, the more he's wearing glasses, the power is not increasing. Because most of the time you find that if the child was around 4 years and was wearing -4, for example, by the time they're 10, they're wearing -6, -7. So to enable reducing that progression of power as the child is growing, you can be given the CMA lenses. You can attend also contact lenses. You can be given some contact lenses that will enable to reduce the elongation of the eye.
Oh, wait. Even before we get there, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
I have a toddler, and he's playing normally. How do I tell that this child has a problem, has myopia? How can I tell as a parent?
Well,
because the child may not even understand what's happening to them.
Fred, you probably advantaged more than your parents were. Because most of your kids, I believe, you had them delivered in the hospital. There is this checkup that we do at birth, even as professionals. There is a way we can tell. We can also refract a two-day-old kid or the toddlers to be able to tell if they are within the normal expectations of the refraction. That is do we expect them to emetropize? That is, for the eye to grow into normal limits by the time they are getting to 9, 10 years. So how you tell that perhaps is from the behavioral changes that you will see from your kid. Perhaps if they have assignments and you realize that when they are writing, they are like this. Yeah, they're trying to come close to the book when they are trying to write. Or anytime you give them your phone, they are trying to play cartoon, but you see them trying to bring the phone very close to their eyes. Then you can be able to identify and say, this is probably a sign that my child has a defect that needs intervention by the eye care professionals. Yeah.
What about a child younger than one that has probably locomotive abilities, probably an infant, for example? Is it possible to diagnose myopia at that stage? And if so, what kind of technology or tools do you use?
Mostly for infants, it might not be easy, but you will notice by the movements of the eye. Our eyes move binocularly, and they move at the same angle. So most of the time you'll realize, especially if...
When you say binocularly, you know, some of our audience may not understand.
Okay, I mean one eye is monocular, now both of them binocularly, so both eyes. So you will realize for a small child, especially when they're trying to move the eye, it's either one eye is being left behind or one eye is not moving the same direction with the eye. So in such cases, you'll be able to, you'll notice, if in case you notice such like a thing, you should take that child for assessment, because chances are either this child's one eye is seeing clearer than the other one. Okay, let me explain this. When I look at you, I'm looking at you, both of my eyes, right? But this is how the brain works. The brain takes the image from your right eye and the image from your left eye, okay? It compares them. So in case the images are the same from both the left and the right, so it gives you one image. But now you find that if one eye is giving better clarity than the other, the brain tends to assume the bad eye and give you the image from the right, the good eye now. In such cases, that's when you find something called, you find the child is looking at you, one eye is kind of off. It's not looking the same direction as the other eye.
And that's an indication of myopia?
That's an indication of myopia. And chances are the eye that's not looking at you clearly, the brain is ignoring it, simply because it's not giving a correct image. So in such cases, if the child is still younger than 8 years, there's a chance of the correction. If you start taking the child for, there's something we call the patch therapy, whereby we cover the good eye and we force the bad eye now, the eye that's off. We patch the good eye, allowing the bad eye, we patch the good eye, allowing the bad eye to focus. In such cases, you find that the eye is really focused to a point of, with time now, it catches up with the good eye. So by the time this child is growing to 10, 11 years, the vision are now better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Without intervention, can myopia correct itself for a child who's growing up?
Well, the chances are very low. But if the child is around 2 years and they have a refractive error of maybe a less degree like 0.5, which is minus, it is highly likely that as they grow, this eyeball is likely to emmetropize. By emmetropization, we mean it might grow up to the normal limit. However, chances of myopia correcting itself past 9 years or past 8 years, that is the malleable period of the visual cortex and the visual pathway, they are very low.
Okay. So at what point do we get to say now this myopia is irreversible and therefore needs a different kind of intervention in terms of age? Because you say probably there's an age period where it can correct itself. Irene?
But we say mostly myopia, as we said, the images are formed in front of the retina, right? The child is still growing, so the chances are the eye is still elongating. So chances of it getting better are few compared to another condition we call hyperopia, which is long-sightedness. In such case, they get better. But for myopia, mostly they don't get better. What we do is, the earlier you are corrected, the better, because it won't get worse. If you are wearing -1, for example, chances of you going to -2 will be very difficult. So you'll just maintain -1, -1.25, maybe 1.50 up to that point. That is if you are corrected. And this is something that people really avoid wearing glasses, with the myth that the more I'm wearing glasses, the worse my eyes are getting. No. Actually, glasses, they help you maintain the vision.
Perhaps if I could interject, you asked about the age bracket where we would be saying that this myopia is not going to correct itself, therefore we need intervention. It goes without saying that if your kid gets to 10, 11 years, 12, and you didn't take them for proper eye checkup and they have myopia, chances of that eye reversing back to normal are very minimal. And therefore, it is highly likely that this particular child will be a dependent of glasses or contact lenses for the rest of their life. Yeah, that is to mean that they will need to use glasses for the rest of their life. So when you get to 12 years, 13, 14, at that point, we can say that now you have to like take the corrections.
And in between that time, which is the most ideal position or age where you can actually diagnose myopia? I'm saying this early enough for it to be treated.
Yes.
At what particular age would you say this is the best time that you can diagnose it and manage it?
The best time to diagnose myopia is around 3 years, 4 years. This is when kids now develop locomotion and also the ability to speak, so they can express themselves, they can try to read, they can try to reach out at something that is maybe appealing to them. You realize that even toddlers, before they get to the development of speech and locomotion, you realize that there are those signs that Irene said, that when you're looking at the kid, it looks like the eyes are a little bit drifting off from the main focus. If they are looking at you, maybe one eye could be trying to go a little bit away. But then, specifically, for these particular kids, if they get to around age 3, age 4, you can be able to see very well as they interact with their environment, also with their colleagues, and even as they are trying to play around with the materials that they have.
Okay.
Yeah,
so according to the theme, it's screens down, eyes up. How bad is it, or what exactly do screens do to the eyes for it either to cause or aggravate the situation? Because now we have situations where mobile phones have to be held here. If I need to use my mobile phone, it has to be close to my face. Sure. I can't hold it far. Yeah, and the laptop has to be next to me for me to be able to access it. On that note, how bad is a screen?
You know, the screen is almost every time positioned in between 40 inches to 35 inches. And perhaps sometimes the phone, we put it at 12 inches or 10 inches from where you are. I'm just trying to mean the arm's length, okay? So what happens is that the more you focus at near, the more the eye muscles will try to contract and relax simultaneously to help you to focus at these images that are clear. And therefore, this will bring aspects of fatigue, and it will encourage the eye to grow. And also you will develop some other symptoms like headaches, the blurry vision when you're trying to look at distance. Why? Because you probably have an experience when you tried to watch a movie overnight, or to try to do something very urgent on your laptop. And then after you were done, when you went to stretch out there, you felt like your eyes were a little bit itching up here. Why? It's because of the muscles that control the movement, the focusing, and the ability to provide clear vision for the eye. So according to the theme for the 2025, people are being discouraged to overstay on screens. Because why? If you overstay on the screen, and perhaps this is a kid or maybe even someone who has been using spectacles, it means that the eye will get used to seeing images that are very close, very clearly, and therefore it may not be in a position to see very well at distance. So that is the aspect that we are saying, that let people, even as we work in the corporate area that you are, try to minimize the screen work. And that's why she talked about the 20-20 rule, which encourages people to take interludes of some breaks to be able to relax their eyes and focus properly at a distance. And
one of the ways of managing it, of course, is using spectacles, as you said, glasses, or you call them? Contact lenses. Yeah. If I get that, then can I still continue being so close to my screen without causing further damage? Does it mean that glasses can now give me the permission now to still spend too much time in front of a screen?
No, not really. Okay, our glasses help us to our day-to-day life activities. They are not here to heal or prevent a lot, but to help reduce the myopia from progressing and the powers from increasing. Plus, we've also said the screen has no problem. The problem is now our muscles, the way we are always on the screen. We call it accommodation. Your eyes are always accommodating when you're doing near work. So whenever you have your glasses, yes, you can still have your glasses that will enable you, give you the comfort to do whatever you are doing at a comfort zone. But now, you also have to do the exercises. Because here we are talking about the muscles. The glasses will not help the muscles. The muscles, you, by the exercise that you are doing, looking at a distance, blinking a lot, it enables the eyes relax, giving it comfort as you do your work.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talk about exercises now. That is the other way of managing myopia.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that, the exercises to manage this condition.
Mostly, it's blinking. We normalize blinking. Most of us, at times, we take it very lightly. If you tell someone that blinking enables you, whenever you're blinking, the tears neutralizes the eye. The tear films now, they nourish the eye, they make the eye more comfortable. I suppose if you've ever been using computer for such a long time, and then after some time you feel as if you have some, we call them foreign body sensation in your eyes, that's due to dry eyes. You find that you're staring at your screen for so long, you're forgetting to do the exercise that is blinking. And at the end of the day, your eyes become dry. So the more you're blinking, you're nourishing the eye, you're giving your eye the relaxation. Another thing is also looking at a distance, giving them, that exercise enables the muscles relax. I think those two really helps. And another thing people really take as a joke is when I tell them that when you're looking at, okay, there is that blinking. You see, just close your eye, look at the side, close your eye, allow your muscles to relax, let the tears now wash the eye. They help wash the eyes by the tears have nutrients. Okay. So when you're closing your eyes, you find that the nutrients are now circulating from the vessels and all that. So it gives you the comfort to continue doing your work without strain. But it's really good for you to continue blinking, for you to continue looking at a distance. Don't just focusing on the screen and forgetting to do all that.
All right, so we talked about exercises, the 20-20 rule, glasses, but I know that with technology, this is 2025.
Yeah.
Is there any other form of technology you use to manage this condition?
Yeah, that's the right way to put it, Fred. There are a lot of interventions that have come up. We have refractive surgery that people are doing of late. We also have some other intervention, we call it orthokeratology. Now, to begin with, the refractive surgery is where you go for the laser surgery, where they work on two particular parts of the eye. That is the cornea, that is the black part of the eye. In African, most of it is black, but elsewhere it could be another color. So they work on the cornea and the lens in there. So what they do, in myopia, people are having a lot of refractive power. So that is why the images at a distance are not being focused properly. So they try to balance the power because the total dioptric power of the eye should be around 60-65 diopters. So you find that when they reduce the curvature of the cornea, or they try to help to reshape it, it reduces the myopia, and therefore that can also be discussed as a way of management of myopia. However, it is important to note that this refractive surgery is not 100%, because I've met cases, even in my practice, that people who did refractive surgery are still going to be candidates of wearing spectacles, because remember, the human body is growing. There is wear and tear as you grow. You realize that at this particular point where you are done the surgery, the organs of the body probably were still growing. For example, if you did this surgery to a kid who was 14 or 12, at teenage, we know that there is a lot of growth and development. So by the time they get to 22, 23, 24, there could be also a residual refractive error that will require also to wear contact lenses or spectacles. However, it is also a very good intervention. Now, on orthokeratology, it is a method whereby you wear contact lenses, hard contact lenses, overnight. What they do,
while you sleep?
Yeah. What they do, they try to reshape the cornea and to make it in a perfect spherical or elliptical form or shape, so that it can be able to focus the rays of the images or the object that is being focused by the person clearly on the retina.
You talked about, was it refractive surgery?
Yep.
And it sounds a bit invasive. I don't know. What is the success rate of that?
The success rate is high elsewhere. Even in Kenya, we have some ophthalmologists who are doing it currently. I don't want to mention name because that is not why I'm here. But the success rate is high because now you realize that with the intervention of this lesser innovation, it is not really invasive. But previously it used to be where people would go into the lens, aspirate the content of the lens and put an IOL, that is a new artificial lens inside the human, inside the patella fossa, which would help to focus the rays very correctly. But now with the intervention or the innovation of laser, it has become easier and it is more safer because you don't have to go inside the eye.
Wow. Now, let's talk about, because you're saying that mostly this happens a lot because of screen usage. This is lesser probably in rural areas. Are we saying there's a correlation between urban centers and the level of cases of myopia? Irene?
Yeah.
What is the direct link between living in an urban area and getting myopia?
We started by saying that eyes are meant to look at a distance. So someone living in the rural area, mostly they're in the farm. Mostly they are doing their things outdoors. You can't compare them with us now here. You're mostly in the screens. If you're not working in an office, you are at home watching. So you find that someone who is living in urban areas will tend, as our high percentage of people living in urban areas will tend to be, most people will tend to be wearing glasses because of these now conditions. You can still, you can compare this with kids, especially the small kids. Right now, if you go to schools here in Nairobi, I'm sure in a class you can't lack 10 kids wearing glasses. And like in rural areas, it's very rare for you to find cases of such kids wearing glasses. Simply because these kids from urban town nowadays, a mother is busy, they want to do their work, they don't want to be disturbed. What they do, the best thing to give their kids their phone to watch Cocomelon and cartoons and all that.
It's Rachel.
Yes. And like in rural areas, that kid wakes up in the morning and the first thing they just run out. They are mostly playing out. So you find that when these kids are growing, they're growing in very different environments. This kid is, the urban kids, their eyes are mostly indoors. They're always watching cartoons and doing their things. The other one, their eyes are really, they have been given this chance of growth, you see? So these eyes kids will definitely be better than these. But even by saying that, we also have to remember that it's something that called the hereditary, you know? You can be in the village and you're not wearing glasses. At times it's not because most of them, they don't have the problem. At times it's lack of the test.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing that I came to realize is, when I was doing the practice, is we people tend to assume. I might be walking, I look at a billboard, right? For that billboard, I'll just see something and then there are some details I won't be able to see. And then I'll just assume, oh, not everyone can read that. Until the day that you come for an eye checkup and then I tell you, no, you're supposed to be seeing up to 20/20. We call it 20/20 or 6/6. That's the visual acuity. Okay, so in most cases you find that, yes, in the rural areas, these kids, they might be given this chance that their eyes have really grown, they have better vision and all that, but there is a chance that there are people in the rural areas who have problems, but they don't know that they have problems.
And for those who may not even realize they have a problem from childhood and they grow up and they become adults, what other risks are there if I live for a long time with myopia?
They are very, very high risk. Perhaps very adverse. Why? Because if myopia gets to the level of maybe very high, and you realize now it causes what you call retinal detachment. When you say retinal detachment, it's like you have a phone and then you have the screen. So the screen peels off. So the way the eye is made is elliptical in shape. What happens is that with the elongation of the eye axial length, what happens is that the retina is not growing simultaneously. And therefore, if the eyeball has grown larger, therefore it will stretch the retina. When the retina is stretched, there are tears or breakages. These breakages will lead to vitreous humor, or the substances that are found inside the eyeball to maintain it turbid. They will enter into the retina, and therefore they will cause the retina to tear off. Once the retina tears off, what happens is that now the worst complication happens. People cease to see.
You become blind.
You become blind, yes.
You can be termed blind, or you develop what we call low vision. Yeah, such that yes, you can see, but you cannot see really at in details. Yeah, you would be able to perhaps see and see this is a person, but you cannot identify this is Fred, this is Benjamin, this is Irene. That is.
Is that the reason why we see probably most of our older generation, our grandfathers and grandmothers, as they age, then they lose vision? Could this be part of the problem?
It could be, it could be not. With age, senile or geriatrics are highly affected by other conditions like cataracts. And these come with age because of the normal body wear and tear as people grow old. However, if someone was myopic when they were younger, as they grow old and this myopia progresses, they are very favorable candidates for myopia progression and retinal detachment, and therefore they can lose their vision. So it is why I said it could be one of the causes. However, we cannot say it is exclusively the only cause. There are many other causes. Yeah.
So back to the parent in an urban setting. There is no other way. Maisha iko hapa town, hakuna mali tunaenda, and they have a child to raise. What would you advise them? Because screens are just part of life. How can they manage that for a child?
You can be taking them out. Even if it's just outside the balcony. Allow them to view. It gives them, at least it's allowing their muscles to grow. I know at some point they'll be watching, they'll be doing their things, but at least give them time to go out, allow them to go out and play. Even in schools, actually schools really help a lot, because whenever they're in school, they go out for breaks and all that, and they get a chance to play. It really helps with that. And then another thing is, if you discover that your child has any issues, and either they're rubbing their eyes so hard, they're not copying their work correctly, they're always near the screen, they're doing such things that will be giving you some trigger warnings, it's best if you take them for an eye checkup so that they can be corrected early. In case you've taken your child and the vision is still okay, continue taking them outside. Allow this child's eye to grow well out.
Even with glasses, you say, still take them out?
Yeah, even the glasses, take them out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the theme, screens down, eyes up.
Eyes up.
It's very easy to say, but what other methods are you using to propel that message, screen down, eyes up?
One of the methods is coming here on national television to disseminate distilled knowledge about myopia, for the public to know that this is a concern that they really need to take note of, because WHO has said, probably Fred, you need to know, that by 2050, half of the world could be myopic. And that is a risk, because you can't, if we go with that projection, you can imagine what will happen at 2000. And therefore, what we are doing at Baus Optical and as eye care professionals, we are giving people the chance to come and be tested, yeah, have eye examinations for free, so that we can identify these particular myopia conditions at a tender age. And perhaps to add on what my colleague said, for these parents who are urban dwellers, we highly encourage them to have their child's eyes screened after every 6 months. Why 6 months? Because the moment you realize that this eye it's at 3 years, you should check again at 3.6 years, because that is the frequency where we can be able to detect a very minute development of a refractive error. So what we are doing as eye care professionals, we are advising people to not shy off from wearing spectacles, not to shy off from knowing that, yes, I have a problem. Yeah, it's probably a big concern, because if the projection is by 2050 half of the world would be myopic, then it means most likely our progeny are going to be candidates for that. And therefore what we are doing as at now is to prevent ourselves and the current generations that we have, the Gen Alpha, the Gen Z and the others, from the adverse effects, because my colleague, I remember, she told you that it is hereditary. What that means is that if you control your myopia as a young adult like myself and her, it is highly likely that even if your kids will inherit it, it will not be like the adverse one, which could be leading to myopia progression, retinal detachment, and probably low vision and blindness. Yep.
And probably on the issue of age, is there an age whereby once you hit that level, then there's nothing much we can do for your myopia? Even glasses cannot assist?
No, for myopia, there's always a correction.
Even for a person who's 100 years old?
Yeah. For myopia, for eyes, we have two issues. We have the refractive errors and the pathological errors. For myopia, it's a refractive error. So for we to call it refractive error, it clearly means that it can be corrected with glasses, contact lenses, and now the surgery that we spoke about. So meaning, even if you're 100, we can always correct the myopia. Not unless now if you have any other issues like pathological errors, like maybe glaucoma, maybe cataract, that's when maybe we can't correct by glasses, but they can be corrected by other medical. An example is surgery for cataract. But for myopia, there's always a correction for it.
Those same issues you've just mentioned, glaucoma and cataracts, are they also, are children also predisposed to them?
Yeah, for example, like cataract, there's kids born with cataract. So there's congenital trauma and maybe age. But for cataract, if your cataract is discovered early, there's a surgery that is done. Cataract is the clouding of the lens. We have a lens in our eye. So if the lens starts clouding, you find that whenever you're looking at things, those people, their vision are cloudy.
Smoky vision.
Yeah. So for cataract, what is done, they go to ophthalmologist for surgeries from the ophthalmologist. They remove the lens, which is now cloudy, and then they put another lens. We call them IOL, intraocular lens. So for that, it helps improve the vision. For glaucoma, glaucoma is the pressure of the eye. So for glaucoma, if the pressure is detected early, you are given some drugs, and then they'll help maintain now. Glaucoma mostly is a silent thief of the eye. We call it silent thief of the eye because most of the time you don't notice that you have glaucoma. You won't be having headaches or anything. You'll just find out that, you'll just realize that you're losing your peripheral sight from sides.
And that if persists, one of
it
the
is
side
not
effects,
corrected.
If not corrected, one of the impacts is that it could end up giving you myopia.
No, myopia is on its own.
Okay.
But at times, if you have high myopia, high myopia at times leads to glaucoma, but at low chances. So that's why you're supposed to be at least doing the eye checkups so that you can be able, if you have myopia and you're not corrected, it can cause cataract. It has chances of causing cataract, glaucoma, and now what he talked about, the retinal detachments. So it's best if you are corrected. The myopia. Now
let's go back to the Global Myopia Week 2025. You as Boss Optical, what activities are you engaging in, and what kind of services would you say you're offering to people?
Thank you very much for that question, Fred. Boss Optical is a Tier 1 corporate in Kenya. We are probably one of the leading firms in terms of eye care. And what we have been doing this week, and even previously before this week, we have given Kenyans and all the citizens of the world free eye examination. Anytime you walk to Boss Optical, you have a chance to be checked for free. Once you are given a diagnosis, now we can start the conversation from there. Like you have myopia, you have hyperopia, you have presbyopia, you need glasses. Now the conversation starts from there. Now, as the conversation starts from there, we also have other offers that we have as a company for spectacles, provision to both kids and adults. You see, you look at this frame, maybe I would ask my colleague to wear it so that you can see what it is. And I also have my pair here, which I will also try. This frame at Boss Optical is given for free. And when you give you this free frame, it's called the Superflex. So what you buy is you just stand in for the lens. So the cost that you will just run into your pocket or in cash, or maybe you write a check for the lenses. Okay, so that is what we are doing as Boss Optical. And then we also have another particular innovation, the control myopia and astigmatism lenses. So these are particular lenses that are made to make sure that they ease or they prevent myopia progression. So what they do, they help you to see clearly at the center. So these lenses are made such that they are circle in shape, and then at the center we put the myopia correction. And then at the periphery, we put plus power, such that if the eye drifts away from the central part, it will probably experience what we call peripheral defocus, and therefore it will have to come back because the brain does not like confusion. This enables to control the growth and the elongation of the axial length, and therefore it maintains the dioptric power of myopia at a considerate rate. So what you realize is that people who have myopia, after every 6 months, we do them checkups. We have a background of our patients, probably around 5 million of them, since BAUS was incepted in 2002. And every time, after every 6 months, we contact them to come and do eye checkup so that we can alleviate if there is any kind of progression.
And you say that when you do it for free?
Yes.
Yes, we do it for free.
Okay.
The examination is free. The only thing that you stand in for is the lenses, because we have this offer. So the lenses are as cheap as 3,500. That is photochromatic. By photochromatic, we mean lenses that will enable you to see clearly even when you go outside. You realize nowadays people are very sensitive to high intensity light and also UV. You talked about screens and why we are talking about screens down, eyes up. These screens emit what we call UV light, the short wavelength light from rays of light, which are very adverse to our eyes. What they do, they probably can cause cataracts. They can cause other conditions that will worsen your vision. Okay. So we have a specific type of lens we call blue block. So these blue block lenses will help you to shield your eyes from the exposure to this blue light. What they do, they filter. Okay. So like if I'm wearing the lenses like this, okay, and I'm looking at my screen, yes, the light will come, it will come up to my eyes, but the only light that will get past the frame or past the lenses is the safe light that will get into my eyes, and therefore I am prevented from adverse effects of these particular conditions. If you look at this brochure here that I've carried with me, we have offers that we give as a company, lifetime free services, eye exam annual or after every 6 months, semi-annually. And then we also have repair of spectacles. Even if you didn't take it from BAUS Optical, if you walk into our shop, and we have very many, we have like 36, 37 branches in Kenya, and we're still going to open one very soon in Kakamega, you will get free repair of your glasses. We replace nose pads, we can change the tempos or the bevels, and also we can tighten to make sure that people are comfortable and their vision is improved.
Right, thank you. Anything to add?
Yes. Okay, in my line of practice, there's a time I met a mother who had a 6-year-old child. She was a girl, and unfortunately the girl had lost one eye. Reason being, the girl was really complaining a lot because of the vision, but the mother was always ignoring. So what I would really like to advise our parents is they should normalize taking kids for eye checkups. And as we have said, at BAUS we do it at free. Any BAUS branch you work in, it's going to be done for free. Okay. For small kids, the lenses, the parent can get a free frame with the lens of 1,399. That's 1,400 alone. Just 1,400 you get full lens for the small kids.
All right. So
instead of letting a kid lose their eyes just because of lack of money, because people just tell you glasses are expensive, eye checkups are expensive now. At BAUS you'll get them at an affordable price.
Thank you so much, Irene Gitonga, Senior Optometrist at BAUS Optical, and Benjamin Mutisia, a Lead Optometrist at BAUS Optical. Yes, it is Global Myopia Awareness Week 2025, which is an annual initiative to raise awareness about myopia or nearsightedness, particularly in children. And this year's theme is Screens Down, Eyes Up. Thank you so much for your time at TV47 and for that eye-opening, if I may use that expression, interview. Time for us to take a break, but a lot more coming up your way after this. You're still watching Morning Cafe.